actually one of the master students in the NFS program, and I'm thrilled that we have the opportunity to introduce our invited seminar speaker. But before we do that, I'd like to have a couple of housekeeping notes. Please turn off your cell phones. We don't want to have any interruptions during the seminar. And this is a conversational style seminar, so if you have any thing you would like to share or questions, they're welcome. And this is Dr. Jeanine Davis. I'd like to introduce her. She is an associate professor and extension specialist in the horticulture department at North Carolina State University. She conducts her research on culinary medicinal herbs, non-timber forest products, mushrooms, and specialty crops. She is co-author of a book, Growing and Marketing Ginseng, Golden Seal, and Other Woodland Medicinals. She's very active in outreach, and actually one of the things she did recently was give some training for good agricultural practices for herb growers, and she put those videos on YouTube for free, so that's been really, really great. And another detail I found out about her recently is that she actually has her own little farm. On her Facebook page, it's called Our Tiny Farm, and she says that it helps them to practice what she preaches and give her insight into the real challenges of farming. And for all these reasons, she's a wonderful person. I'm so excited to hear her talk today, so please join me in welcoming Dr. Davis.
Thank you. What a wonderful introduction. And thank you so much for this invitation. It was a beautiful drive down from Western North Carolina because it was just, we're still all flowering there, and to just come down into a little bit more further along in spring was a real delight. So I'd like to talk to you today a little bit about the status of organic agriculture in the Southeast. And I did a lot of focusing on North Carolina and Georgia to see the differences. You know, we've got a little competition that goes on. So first of all, what is organic agriculture? Let's all try to get on the same page with organic agriculture. Probably I should say, what is it not? A number of my colleagues, unfortunately, still think that organic agriculture is just doing things the old way. And nothing could be further than the truth. We are not going back to the way they farmed a couple hundred years ago. Organic agriculture is a production system that sustains the health of the soil, and soil is the most critical word in organic agriculture. And with all the emphasis on marketing organics, I think we tend to forget that. It's all about the soil. It's about soil and ecosystems and people. It's about making everything sustainable. It's to have a farming system that leaves land for my grandchildren and great-grandchildren to farm, but that also sustains the farmer at the present time. Our farmers should be living the same lifestyle as most of the rest of us lead. And that doesn't count graduate students, right? It relies on ecological processes and biodiversity and cycles. It relies on things that we as scientists are just beginning to really delve into. It combines tradition, innovation, and science to benefit the environment and promote fair relationships and a good quality of life for all. I love these definitions. Modern organic agriculture is very deliberate. Years ago, one of my soil science colleagues at the research station where I'm at, okay, I was the first female faculty at my research station. I was the first one that came in. I was the hippie, right? There's no doubt about it. And we had some kind of very traditional agriculturists there. And when our twin soil scientists, and I'm sure someone's going to guess who I'm talking about, really big in cover crops, first started doing organic agriculture, he was like, "Are you telling me that all these farmers deal with all these weeds like this?" And I'm like, "No, Greg. A good organic farmer would never have planted his crops there. He would have taken care of those weeds. He would have used cover cropping or solarization or something first." Organic agriculture is very deliberate. Organic farmers are, I don't know anybody that watches their land and what's happening closer and monitors it closer than they do. They have to. That's the only way to be successful. Or they would spend all their time with a hoe and squashing bugs and replanting crops. We're so blessed with where science is now, and most of our organic farmers are people that follow the science very closely, and they use that latest knowledge. What we have learned about disease cycles and insect cycles and plant physiology is critical to the success of modern organic agriculture. And as I said, it's sustainable for the land and for the farmer. So what does it mean to be organic in the United States? So this is something I spent a lot of time teaching my farmers market farmers. We just did this last week at a meeting. You can't use the O word unless you follow the rules in this country now. You can't just call yourself organic. You can actually be fined for doing that. When you say you're organic in the United States now, that means you are following all the rules and regulations that pertain to USDA organic label. That is the National Organic Program. And note that that program operates out of the marketing service. This is not organic agriculture to make organic agriculture great for the land. It is sold as a marketing tool. And for me, that's a bit of a disconnect because I believe organic agriculture is about the soil. But we are now controlled, what we call organic in this country, by something under the marketing service. So if a farmer labels a product as organic, they have to be certified by a third-party certifying agent who has been approved by the USDA. There is a $5,000 exemption, and this is what's terribly misunderstood. If you sell less than $5,000 worth of product in a year as organic, you don't have to be certified, but you still have to follow all of the rules of being certified organic, which means all of the record keeping. You have to have the farm plan. You have to, all your seeds have to be organic, or you have to have the documentation about why they're not. All of that is still required. You just don't have to pay for the certification. So what I spend a lot of time training people is stuff like on my own farm. I'm not certified organic because it doesn't make sense. My customers don't care. My farm is very small. They come see how I practice. I don't need this. So the way I advertise myself is that I follow the practices and use the products as defined by the National Organic Program. But I cannot use the other.
Can I have a question on that?
Yes.
So you said if the sale is less than $5,000, you don't have to be certified, but you do all the things that will lead you to certification. Why not certify if you are doing all the things?
Because of the expense. If you sell under $5,000 worth of product in a year, it does not make economic sense for you to pay for certification because that will be $500 or more. That's the only reason.
Okay, you pay more. Okay, you pay for certification. That part, thank you.
Yep. So for this presentation, I went to the organic census. There has been a USDA organic census done in 2008 and 2014. And according to the 2014 census, we have 14,000 certified organic, and that includes the exempt category of farms in the United States that sold products in 2014 of $5.5 billion. So this is getting to be a very sizable industry. In addition, there's thousands more people like myself who most of us would consider organic, but they can't call themselves organic. They grow those practices. They could be under the label known as naturally grown, or more and more we have people growing biodynamically. There's a growing market for that, and many biodynamic farmers are certified organic and biodynamic on top of it. But they're not even counted within the census.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Is that okay if I ask question as you go, or you want me to wait? I'm not sure.
Oh, you're fine. You're fine.
So, can you please define what biodynamically means? What is that? What kind?
That is a whole thing in and of itself. So, very simply, biodynamic agriculture is homeopathy for agriculture. So you're practicing organic agriculture, but you are reducing outside inputs even more, so you're trying to make it a tighter circle of producing your own inputs. So most biodynamic farms are animal and integrated with crop culture. And you use a set of preparations that were developed by Rudolf Steiner that are very much homeopathic in their approach. They're mostly herb-based, and they're that tiny 1 drop in a million drops type of agriculture. Like I said, this could be a whole new discussion in and of itself, but there's a growing demand for certified biodynamic products. Whole Foods and Amy's Kitchens are 2 that are selling biodynamic, and you can be certified biodynamic by an organization called Demeter, D-E-M-E-T-E-R, and we have an office here in California that does it here in the U.S. So it's something I'm very excited to try to get some research started on. A couple of my former employees are now practicing biodynamic farmers.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Organic agriculture is practiced around the world. We know it's being done in 164 countries. We have 93 million acres of agricultural land managed by almost 2 million farmers. So I still get some criticism from some people that this is a fad and it's not very big, and I think it's totally wrong. I think that you're going to continue to see this segment of the industry grow for many, many reasons. It's big business globally. Organic food and drink reached $64 billion in 2012. Just trying to impress upon you that this isn't something little. So what about organic agriculture in North Carolina? Well, we're pretty proud of ourselves in North Carolina when it comes to organics. We have been one of the leaders in this industry. It is one of the things that attracted me to North Carolina after I finished up graduate school, because this was going on. Carolina Farm Stewardship Association is our big organic group that works in North and South Carolina. They were established in 1979. They actually did certification before the National Organic Program came on board. They dropped certification with National Organic Program because they would no longer be allowed to lobby, and they felt that that was an important role for them, so they gave up certification. We had then and continue to have very large numbers of farmers who don't fit under the official organic label. Georgia, in comparison, is a relative newcomer to organic agriculture. Georgia Organics was founded, I think, in the late 1990s. If you read on their website, they didn't have time to make a phone call. They say they grew out of some other organization. Not quite sure what that means. But I talked to a lot of people in Georgia, a lot of growers. A lot of growers come to our conferences, and we come to Georgia Organics. And we know there's lots of room for expansion for growers, but the transition has been slower in Georgia than in some of the other southern states. So let's look at a few of the numbers. This is pretty interesting, looking at the 2014 census. You can see that North Carolina has about twice as many farms as does Georgia. Now remember, this is certified organic or exempt. This doesn't count all of the others. Acres, we have about 22,000 acres compared to your 9,000. Look at the sales. But what I found interesting, and I don't have a good explanation for, is look at this difference here. 41% of our sales in North Carolina are less than $10,000. But look at yours. 64% of your sales are $250,000 or up. Find that really interesting. Yes, ma'am.
It's Vidalia onions and blueberries.
Vidalia onions and blueberries.
Yeah.
Fascinating, fascinating. Like I said, I just pulled up these figures the other day. I'm like, whoa, look at this difference. So if we melded those two things together, just think of what we would have. And look at the change over the years. So we can find numbers from the USDA census from 1997 through to 2014. And you can see the growth in the North Carolina industry, particularly in the last couple of years. But the percentage increase is not that different. So Georgia's just running a little behind, but I think the change is in the air. Where are we compared to other states? Well, the lowest number of organic farms in the last census was in Mississippi. 8. 8. So I've already been busting the shoes of my colleagues down in Mississippi on that one. But then look at California. We're all dwarfed by what goes on in California. Now we know the Southeast is a much harder place to grow organically than in California. So that's a little bit unfair. The number of acres, Rhode Island has the lowest number of acres at 78. Again, Georgia, North Carolina, and then California once again. And the sales, the lowest sales, won't even be reported with Arkansas, Oklahoma, and South Carolina. We're pretty low compared again to California. But just gives you an idea of where we fit in the picture. So we've got a long way to go. But we're figuring these things out. We're figuring out how to grow better organically in the Southeast. Just give us a little time. So the Southeast lags behind much of the nation in the number of organic farms, as I just showed you. You know, it's kind of surprising where our big production areas are. Here in the Northeast, here we are. Again, some of these states. Oh well. But we sell 80% or more of what we produce locally. This is looking at the share of organic farms selling within 100 miles. So this shows how strong the local food movement is within our region. And this is something that I see really strong support for. And we have an organization known as the Appalachian Sustainable Agriculture Project. They're devoted to marketing. They work the Western North Carolina area. And this is what they find is that our consumers very, very, very supportive of local. And they'll take local, then organic. But it's to them to support the local agriculture. So this is a real opportunity for us. I wanted to show you a little bit of what was happening with university research. And what I just chose to do was the OREI, the Organic Research and Extension Initiative proposals were just due a couple weeks ago. And I'm involved with 2 of those. And the red dots show the states. That shows how we're working together as a region, which I find very, very exciting. One is a proposal to develop the Southern Organic Seed Network, and that is being led by the Organic Seed Alliance. And you can see North Carolina and Georgia are involved in that. And another one is to strengthen the organic industry through education, research, and market development. That is being led by an organization in Alabama. We in North Carolina will be considered one of the leaders on that to show them, to demonstrate how it can be done, what to move toward. So lots and lots of proposals are going out from the Southeast to develop organic agriculture. And we have lots of organizations out there. Some of these organizations are almost doing a better job of bringing in grant monies than the universities are. We have the Virginia Association for Biological Farming. Carolina Farm Stewardship Association that handles the Carolinas. I mean, they've got so many employees now, I can't keep track of them all. Organic Growers School, we just held our spring event, and we're bringing in, that's in the Asheville area, we're now bringing in large national federal grants. Georgia Organics, Florida Organic Growers, the Alabama Sustainable Agriculture Network, Tennessee Organic Growers, and the Texas Organic Farmers and Gardeners Association are just some of the most evident organizations. There's lots of smaller ones too. But these organizations can often accomplish things that we can't do through our universities and through our local governments. And they are a very, very vital part of growing the organic industry. So really, what does growing organically entail? So again, it goes down to the soil. It's what can we do to conserve and build our soil and protect the water and the environment. That is the most crucial part of organic agriculture, is doing things that will preserve that soil and build that soil. It's producing the crops and the animals without using synthetic pesticides or fertilizers or whatever term we want to use for GMOs or radiation. Fertility, you have to have a plan on how you are going to manage your land and build the fertility of that soil. You have to use only natural fertilizers, cover crops, manures, and mined rocks. So you can use fertilizers, but it's very tightly defined. And some of those mined rocks sometimes get processed too far. So you can use rock phosphate, but not superphosphate. And so it's very, very important to know what is allowed within your system or not. So if you become certified organic, one of your best partners is your certifier. As you go to buy products or control a problem, you pick up the phone and go, am I allowed to do this? I mean, we just did that last week because our tomato breeder wanted to put some of his new tomato seeds into our certified organic research unit. But because of a disease outbreak they had been treated with trisodium phosphate. And I'm like, whoa, not sure this is allowed. And sure enough, it's not. He also found out it wasn't food grade he was using, so he'll be changing some of his practices. Cover crops for weed control, disease control, building up the nutrients, and building soil tilth. And there's lots of research going on cover crops. And I still think with all the years that we've done, we're still learning. And we're particularly learning that what works on this farm here might not work 10 miles down the road. Just the differences in microclimates and the soil types. Coming up with a cover crop system that works for you. This is something that we experience all the time. We'll go to a meeting and somebody will tell us about this great system and we put it out there and it's a disaster. We're dealing with that in our hop yard right now. Pat Battle said, this is the mix to use, and it didn't winter kill. And now it's like, so Patty, you're gonna send a crew out here to pull all this stuff out for the top's ground? And this is the kind of things that we're still learning. Crop rotation. This is something I've only been able to do a little bit of spotty research on over the years, and I would love to see us do more serious research on crop rotation. Because what I see happening on my farm and on other people's farms that really seem to have it down, they figured something out. And they know what works for them, but we as scientists don't understand why it's working. That's the part I want to get at. Why does that rotation work as well as it does? Crop rotation helps with disease control, weed control, of course, and it helps build a healthy soil. Variety selection. This is something my research has gotten into more and more. I'm doing quite a few projects where we're looking at developing new varieties specifically for organic farmers and testing varieties. Because what we have found is the varieties that are developed for conventional systems. Let's use tomatoes as an example. Most of the tomatoes that are being bred now are being bred to grow under raised beds with black plastic mulch and drip irrigation. They are spoon-fed nutrients on a daily basis. They're sprayed with fungicides weekly. So they might come up with a great variety that works under that system, and then you put it out into an organic farm and it could fail miserably because it doesn't have the disease resistance. It doesn't have the ability to scavenge for nutrients that might not be as readily available as coming out of a drip tube. So we're now looking at varieties specifically for organic selection. And our broccoli work has shown it to be very different. What we use in a conventional system and what we choose to use in an organic system. And the markets are different. Broccoli, for example, when you sell to a big wholesaler, wants little bitty heads. When we sell that at the farmer's market, the buyer wants bigger heads. So just little differences like that. Disease, insect, and weed management. We must have more research going on in this area to help us understand how to control these better, and we're making progress all the time. But prevention and timing are very important. A good organic grower understands the diseases and insects on their farm and when they're going to show up. And they know when to plant crops and when not to, because they've got that experience. A new person new to a piece of land, it takes them a number of years to get to that point, because it's going to be different in each situation. Just proper site selection will help reduce many problems. And then the high tunnel. The use of these high tunnels has opened up opportunities that we never thought we had before, and in an affordable manner. If you're certified organic, you are only using substances that have been approved by the National Organic Program. And this is not the easiest document to get through. Okay? So we're always trying to do things to make this simpler. There is OMRI, which is the Organic Materials Review Institute. There is an agreement between OMRI and the NOP that if something is approved by OMRI, that you can go ahead and use it. So that makes it easy. If it says OMRI, you can use it and you're going to be okay. But there's other things, like there could be locally available products, lime products or fertilizers that don't have a label, never will have a label. And that's where you need to work very closely with your certifier. And then we talked that there is a certification. So you have to pick out a certifier, you download their application, you spend a great deal of time filling out this very long form. The first time's always the worst. And then you send that in, they review it, and then an inspector comes out. And this inspector comes out every single year and checks your operation. This isn't a consultant, this is just an inspector. And then that inspector sends in their report. And based on that, now sometimes you might have to correct some things that they found wrong, then you get your certification. So where are we now with organic agriculture? What are the trends and the new opportunities, and what are our numbers? Well, let's look at it from the consumer end. Sales of organic food grew 11% in 2014. Any industry would like to see that kind of growth. Right now, we're at about 5% of total U.S. food sales are organic. That's a lot. 51% of families across the board are buying more organic products than they were a year ago. Most families buy some organic food. Even people that really say they can't afford it often will make a decision on at least one product. For example, I know a lot of people with young families, their decision is organic dairy. That's where they've made the decision. It will only be organic dairy. But organic produce was the biggest selling category in 2014. And I'm sure it's the same in Georgia as it is in North Carolina now. Every major supermarket chain has a decent looking organic section to it. For so long, the organic section was pretty pitiful. But now you can buy good looking produce. And I was shocked. The other day I was in Walmart. And I don't usually buy groceries in Walmart, but I was there for something else and ran through. First of all, there was organic milk, their brand of organic milk, and there was all this organic produce there. It was pretty cool. So 12% of all produce sold in the U.S. is now organic. Organic dairy sales that I just mentioned, again, 11% growth, now valued at $5.5 billion. There's also the non-food sector of organic, which is growing by leaps and bounds. We've suddenly become concerned about what we're cleaning our house with, washing our clothes, and most importantly, what we're putting on our bodies. The body care segment is exploding. We have suddenly gone, oh yeah, the skin's this really big organ that whatever I put on here gets absorbed into my body. And have you ever looked at the very tiny print on your lotions or your makeup? It's pretty scary stuff. So I think this is where you're going to continue to see a lot of growth in this industry. So why do people buy organic products? Remember that the basis of organics is for the soil and for taking care of our land and being good stewards. But our National Organic Program is all about marketing, and it's to assure consumers that organically produced products meet a consistent standard and to facilitate interstate commerce. And most people believe that organic products are going to be better for them. So health concerns are really what drive sales. Consumer research shows that people turn to organics because they think it's better for them. Most of them don't think about the land and the farm part at all. All they're concerned about is the health of themselves and their families. Because of the concern particularly over pesticide residues, people who say they can't really afford organics tend to go with the dirty dozen. And every year this gets published, the dirty dozen, it's the produce that has shown to have the highest level of pesticide residues. And apples, peaches, peppers, raspberries, spinach, strawberries, those are on the list almost every single year. So many people who don't buy anything else organic will buy these products organically. But is organic food healthier than conventionally grown food? I had to do a seminar on this a couple of years ago, and it was really fun to try to dig into the research. What I found was there's really very little research that was designed to actually answer that question. But what the research does show is that organic food is usually lower, in pesticides than conventionally produced food. That's reassuring to know. But you need to remember that we've pretty much contaminated this whole universe. You know, pesticides are now everywhere. And you can grow organic beans or squash on land. But if they have been grown tobacco, like this is the situation in Western North Carolina, if that land ever grew tobacco before, it's going to have pesticides in it because beans and squash are really effective at pulling those pesticides back out of the soil. 73% of the conventional fruits and vegetables that were tested had pesticide residues. The organic produce had 6.5% to 27%. So substantial difference, but you really can't say that your organic produce is pesticide free. I think the only way to do that would be to grow in a totally controlled environment. And then there's other questions about the health benefits of that food. Is organic food more nutritious? A 2008 Organic Center study found that the average level of 11 nutrients were 25% higher in organic foods compared to conventional foods. And I was part of a study group for a while with the group. I don't know if they ever published it, but there was some work being done in Colorado that showed that organically produced, there were a bunch of different vegetables they looked at, were higher in antioxidants than were the conventionally produced. And that was a replicated study. So my review of the literature on this subject found that the research is inconclusive. There have been very few well-designed, non-biased studies. There's lots of really biased studies that have been produced and are out there. You know, this is our old great internet, Facebook problem that we have right now. You'll find lots of things that say that organic is better, but when you read into the study design, it was actually very poor. Most studies show that nitrates are higher in conventional and that vitamin C and other antioxidants are higher in organic. So there definitely are differences, but we need to do more work. Whatever the reason, a consumer survey found that 25% of the grocery shoppers have increased their consumption of organic foods over the past year. When I do my own informal surveys, and I love to do this, I'm the one that walks around the farmer's market with my little clipboard and asks questions of the people. And what I found is that people try to every time they go to the store, bring home at least 1 or 2 organic things. It's in people's awareness, but we still run into the cost versus the desire issue. So what does this mean for our farmers? Farmers in the Southeast should give organic agriculture serious consideration, in my opinion, because it's a growth industry. Even if you're not totally sold on the philosophy of organic agriculture, just because this is where the growth is, I think you should be looking at it. There are so many new market opportunities. Wholesale buyers are scrambling for enough organic produce. This is one of our limitations in the Southeast, is we're just not producing enough to serve these markets. Periodically, we'll have our supermarkets and our big organic buying chains come. They'll ask us to put together a meeting of growers, and they'll explain this situation. And they'll say, we'll produce all the organic broccoli you can produce. We'll buy it if you'll produce it. Selling wholesale to local independent stores. All of our communities have independent groceries, health food stores of some sort that'll work closely with your growers. We have cooperatives and other owner-grows businesses. We have more and more grower cooperatives. That was a bad word in North Carolina for so many years, but it's working for the organic industry. It gives them power in the industry. It gives them power not only in selling their produce, but power when it comes to buying materials that they need, fertilizers, boxes, and such as that. Direct sales. This has been a way for so many organic farmers to get started, is doing direct sales at tailgates and farmers markets. But they need to continue to grow, because at least in my region now, we have got so many markets out there. They're all competing with each other. So where we used to have organic farmers that could make their whole living off of direct sales, they're now having to make wholesale part of their operation. Direct sales on the farm. Most of my sales on our tiny farm, which really is very tiny, take place with people that want to come to my farm and see for themselves that those beef cattle, they want to make sure that that field there is the same one on my block. Okay, I recognize that tree. You know, I mean, this is how serious they are, that they want that kind of closeness to their grower. They want to make sure we're good people. They snoop around. They come in to get the meat from my freezers. They're looking around that garage, you know. They're checking us out. That's a small segment. Most people can't afford to do that. People are making a special commitment. That works for me. CSAs are continuing to grow. They have evolved tremendously from when they started many years ago. But they've become, we just had an event in Asheville where one afternoon, all the farms that offered CSAs came together in one building, and there was an event. And then you came and you got to shop around the CSAs and choose which one to go. How cool is that? And then, of course, internet sales. There. I mentioned how representatives from a supermarket chain have come to talk to us several times. These are some of the things they said. They told us, and this was Ingalls Market actually, 50% of the organic produce is now sold through supermarkets. That was a surprise. Average organic produce sales are on the increase. There's little relationship between income and purchasing of organics. And that's what I see when I stand in like a Whole Foods or one of our earth fairs, and I just watch the people coming in, and I'm going, you know, I see sometimes these young women with little children that obviously are not making a lot of money, but they've made that decision that they're going to feed those children right. I shouldn't say right. They're going to feed those children organic. Can't. And And all mainline grocers are maintaining or increasing their organic lines. Many farmers now derive the majority of their income from these direct market sales. This is a huge opportunity. The internet-based organic sales are continuing to grow, and there's more and more creative opportunities. A couple of my former employees now are involved in one of these services where you sign up and you say what you want and how much you want to buy, and they arrange to get these boxes put together and delivered for you. And they're not that outrageous. And my mother reminded me, she goes, you know, when you were a little girl, we used to have a company that would come and fill our freezer that way. It wasn't organic, but it was offering that same service. What I'm very excited about too is that organic agriculture presents an opportunity for young and small-scale farmers. And I get so excited watching our graduates come out of Warren Wilson College in Black Mountain, Swannanoa area in North Carolina, and almost immediately go to work on a farm. They probably interned on farms for 3 or 4 years already, and they're able to go out and lease or buy a little piece of land and actually make real income, actually almost support themselves off of farming on that scale. I don't know of any other part of agriculture that lets you do that. 26% of organic farmers are under 45 years old. That's something we'd be proud of across agriculture. And there's multi-state efforts. Look up New Sprout Organic Farms. They were started by this man right here, Michael Porterfield, who did so well with it. He sold out his portion and he's off doing other things. But this young man started New Sprout, and New Sprout now has growers in Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, both Carolinas, and Tennessee. And they deal on the wholesale level. And most of the organic product in my region that you see in Ingalls has the New Sprout label on it. What are our current efforts? Our research efforts right now we're part of an ORAI project to develop organic wash solutions to use in the dump tanks in place of chlorine. We're looking at essential oils. There's all kinds of graduate students working on this because those oils have to be put into emulsions. Then we have to have taste tests and all this flavor stuff going on to make sure that, you know, your product doesn't taste like cinnamon or something. You know, just a fun project. We're involved in 2 big multi-state projects, one looking at organic tomato breeding and one looking at organic cucurbit breeding. And so we're doing testing all up and down the East Coast with this to see how these perform in different varieties. This year we're starting organic tomato fungicide testing. These tests were first done in greenhouses at Purdue, and now we're moving them out into the field. And we're working with several organic seed companies to do vegetable variety trials where they want to see how their varieties produce in our lovely, humid southeastern climate. They often don't like what they see. We conduct organic tomato and broccoli taste tests for our breeders. I consider this crucial, and when some of our breeders started working in the organic realm, I said flavor is so important to this industry. I watched our tomato breeders program change. He's now retired and breeding on his own, and his whole focus is on lake light resistance, different colors, shapes, and wonderful tastes. And every year, he includes some of his lines in our taste tests, so we make sure that we keep that bar high. We do a lot of outreach. We do field days and workshops. A lot of our stuff is very hands-on. We have our certified organic unit in Western North Carolina. The eastern part of the state is the very large and multi-agency, multidisciplinary Center for Environmental Farming Systems. So I just have a teeny little unit in Western North Carolina, but it's very active and very engaged. There you see the unveiling of the broccoli from underneath the row covers. All the people helped. It was a lot of fun. So with that, yay, I kept right on my time.